Hello students, this is grade 5 science lesson number 6 and the topic is dissolving. Okay, the word dissolving has been used so many times whenever we are mixing a solid and a liquid. You can tell someone, can you dissolve this? And someone will actually take a solid and mix it with water and stir it, and finally you have a solution, right? So when you say dissolve, it's like you are trying to break down the larger particles from a solid, right, using the smaller particles from a liquid. And when these two mix together, they form what is known as a solution. So if you are dissolving something, it's like you are mixing a solid and a liquid, of which at the end you no longer have a solid and a liquid. You have a solution, which is the mixture of solid and a liquid. So when a solid dissolves in a liquid, it forms a mixture which is called a solution. So a solution is formed when a solid substance is mixed with a liquid, and in that solution you not be able to see the solid particles and also the liquid particles. You only have a mixture of solid and liquid particles, and the particles will not be seen using your naked eyes. A solution, it is a mixture of a solute and a solvent. In this sentence, right, there are two new words, solute and solvent. A solute is a substance or is a material which dissolves in a solvent. So a solute is like a solid substance, because a solid substance is the one which dissolves in a liquid, and this solvent is a liquid. So coming back to this sentence which says when a solid dissolves in a liquid, this solid is a solute and this liquid is a solvent. So for example, a solute can be salt or sugar. So here it's written salt, but should be salt and sugar. Apart from that, we can also have like Georges is also a solute. Soda is also what? A solute. So whatever dissolves in a solvent, that one is a solute. And then a solvent. A solvent is a substance which dissolves a solute. A substance which is dissolving a solute is called a solvent. And this solvent is the liquid. And the solvent can be water, paraffin, alcohol, cooking oil, whatever we use to dissolve something solid is called a solvent. So we have so many different solvent and solutes. So I want you to use these two words, solute and solvent, whenever you are talking about solution. Whenever you are talking about solution, make sure you use a solute and a solvent. That's why in my definition I used these two ways, because I said it is a mixture of solute and solvent. So let's see how we form a solution rather. Okay, so we can have let me do this just a bit. Okay, so I want to draw something. Let me use my pen. So this is a tin which is having a solid, and this one is salt. Plus the solute, which is salt, is being mixed by a liquid, and this liquid, which is also called a solvent, is water. So this is water. The end product is a salt solution. So if you mix the two, you will have a salt solution. And in this salt solution, you'll not be able to see the salt. What you will see is just something like water. And in that water, it's just a mixture of salt particles and water particles. So at the end you have a salt solution. So this is the salt solution. Salt is our solute, water is our solvent. So this is our solvent, and this is our solute. Let me write. That's it. So you have a solute, which is salt, mixed with water, which is a solvent, forming a salt solution. So that's about dissolving. So let's talk about this suspension. Suspension. What is it? A solid that forms a solution when it is mixed with water is soluble. Now, if a solid that forms a solution is not mixed with water, in other way, if a solid is not mixed with water, it is insoluble. If a solid is not mixed with water, it is insoluble. So if it is insoluble, it means it forms a suspension. A suspension, it is a mixture of insoluble substance and a solvent. A mixture of insoluble substance and a solvent. Remember, this solvent is a liquid, any liquid, and this insoluble substance is a solute, but because it doesn't dissolve in the solvent, it is just being called an insoluble substance or insoluble solid. So when a solid is mixed with a liquid but does not dissolve in it, a suspension is formed, and this suspension looks cloudy. The suspension is cloudy. In a suspension, you can see the particles of a solid floating in the liquid. It's like in a suspension, you have two layers. You have a layer of solid particles and a layer of liquid particles. You can see the particles of solid, and you can also see the liquid. A good example is when you mix flour and water. If you mix flour or maize flour and water, you will form a suspension. This maize flour will not dissolve in water, because if you let them stand still for some minutes, you will have two separate layers. You will have a layer of flour and another layer of water. So that is a suspension. So it's like you have another layer here, and then you have a layer of, normally you have the solvent at the bottom. At the bottom you have a solvent which is water, and at the bottom you have a solute which is flour, and water is at the top. So at the bottom you have flour, and here you have water. When you have two separate layers in a mixture, just know that that is not a solution, but it is a suspension. Another good example is when you take the same flour, mix it with cooking oil, you'll be able to see the flour particles. They will not form a solution. No, there will be no solution. So that's about suspension and a solution. I hope you can differentiate between a suspension and a solution. So that marks the end of the lesson of dissolving. If you have questions, you can always ask on our web page.